Welcome to the FI Newscast. I'm Susan Choi. In this episode, we'll be getting an inside look at the much-awaited CES 2024 with Brian Comiskey of the Consumer Technology Association. But first, let's cover the top stories for this week. We start with the mergers and acquisition space, which could be seeing some downs and ups at the same time. The Wall Street Journal reports that global M&A volume is expected to fall by 20% this year, but the possibility of lowering interest rates could create renewed investment activity. Overall, deal-making was low last year, but a vigorous stock market is upping the public value of companies, leading to pushback on low sales offers. But for the food industry in particular, the acquisitions aren't slowing down. Case in point, Danone recently announced it is selling its U.S. premium organic dairy units to Platinum Equity. This sale includes the Horizon Organic and 𝗬𝗂𝘂 lines. Danone will still continue to own a minority stake in the units. The growth goals continue for DoorDash when it comes to the grocery game. The delivery giant already holds 59% of the domestic delivery market. But according to CEO Tony Xu, DoorDash has even higher hopes for 2024, setting its sights on acquisitions, but the right ones. Xu recently told the Financial Times, quote, "We're not investing into every single project at the levels that we like, but we're always looking to reinvest." The weather has been wild and it's making food prices wilder. The global effects of El Nino are making already expensive commodities even pricier. Things like juice, cocoa, coffee, and sugar have seen skyrocketing prices over the past year. Orange juice alone climbed a whopping 80%. Experts say the effects of El Nino are affecting weather across the entire planet. Moving on from weather patterns to CPG, we see another curious pattern taking place: brand cutbacks. Many CPG companies chose to stop producing certain items in their inventory lines as a way to ease the supply chain clog during the COVID-19 pandemic. But those companies soon found that consumers didn't really notice the decrease in item offerings. They didn't see their sales affected in that way. So now, many of these CPG makers are not bringing back those items. Experts are saying the phenomenon is a great way for retailers to save money and to reduce overall food waste. And how about some 3D printed seafood? That's what Stakeholder Foods came up with. They have launched the world's first plant-based 3D printed eel. It's quite a feat given the complex textures of the meat. The global eel market is currently valued at about $4.3 billion and has a compound annual growth rate of about 2%. Stakeholder Foods plans on refining the printing by incorporating cultivated eel cells in the future. It's about that time again to check out what the hottest, newest inventions are in the world of tech at the annual Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And what better way to get a sense of what we'll see there than to talk to one of the people behind it all? We have now with us Brian Comiskey, Director of Thematic Programs for the Consumer Technology Association. Brian, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's so wonderful to be talking to you again.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for being here again. You did a great job speaking with us last year about last year's show. People really pumped about that. So let's get into it right now. You guys at CTA, you guys always do a great job putting on CES every year. So tell me, what is the theme for this year's show? Tell us about that.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think this year at CES, it's really going to be a reflection of it is the biggest tent in innovation. You're going to see the entire life cycle of technology, whether that's coming from the consumer side or the enterprise side, the industrial side, even the markets. Our keynotes are going to range from people like Siemens to Intel to Qualcomm to NASDAQ to Best Buy, and even our first beauty tech keynote exhibitor in L'Oreal. So it's going to be really this global platform, big tent that's going to get really, I think, everyone excited for what's to come for tomorrow.
Absolutely, Brian. I cannot wait to get there on the floor myself and check everything out. But let's talk food tech. You're from the Consumer Electronics Show. I'm from the Food Institute. We got to talk about what is going on with your coverage of food tech at CES 24. Can you break it all down for us?
Of course. And it is CES is what it is now because it's beyond consumer electronics. And I think a really good example of this is in our food tech. You're going to see innovation truly from farm to table at the show this year. And we mean quite literally, we're going to have On the agricultural side, innovators from companies like returning exhibitor John Deere, as well as first-time ever exhibitor 𝗂𝗏𝗃, showcasing some of the advancements in automation, precision agriculture, and other of that machinery side of production. But we'll even see beyond just how you make production more efficient, especially in labor shortages. On the ag side, we're going to see what role technology can play in helping drought-ridden areas or other climate-afflicted environments. So there's a company out of Korea called 𝗦𝗶𝗴 that's going to be bringing their air farm, which is a inflatable and portable smart farm that can grow in these harsh environments. So that's the ag side. Then you kind of get into what we would call like the next generation of food advancements. So that's shelf life extension technologies, alternative proteins and dairy, and even some of those devices that help make cooking more efficient, like 𝗂𝗏𝘁 frozen treat maker, which can quickly cook like a great bit of frozen dairy. Finally, you're going to see that retail sector and the services sector really see where automation around robotic servers, autonomous delivery, and other solutions can really play a role in making that experience more seamless to focus on the creativity of cooking and food rather than drudgery. And you'll see a company like 𝗂𝗏𝘁 on the show floor showcasing their autonomous restaurant that can operate 24/7 in places like airports to provide gourmet food to people. So it really is going to run the whole range and have this larger presence at CES this year. We're really excited for it.
Let's talk more about those efficiency cooking systems. You've told me about 𝗟𝗏𝘁. That seems to be a pretty amazing invention. Can you tell me more about that? I know they're going to make a presence at the show this year.
Yeah, of course. And so 𝗟𝗏𝘁 is a company based out of the Netherlands. They're going to be showcasing their 𝗟𝗏𝘁 smart cooker, which it allows to prepare food without baking fats in them. And so as a result, it uses 50% less salt and sugar. So it's focusing on how do you cook and change the way in which you cook to make food more healthy. But underpinning this is, again, some of these automation features that will be a big show trend, as well as sustainability features. In addition to AI, sustainability is going to be one of these tech trends that cuts across every exhibit, even though those techs do have dedicated spaces on the floor. They're going to be everywhere. And a good example, again, in 𝗟𝗏𝘁 is they use 90% electricity, 90% less electricity than traditional electric cookers. So you're going to be saving not just on the calories, but also on the energy usage. So 2 wins out of 1 device.
That sounds pretty cool. You mentioned, sustainability, and the other big one big issue that we always talk about at Food Institute, AI. Can you tell us about some ways that we're going to see, AI technology integrated into, some of the vendors, some of the innovations that we're going to see on the show floor?
Of course. And the thing to remember with artificial intelligence, when we talk about industry and technology innovations, we often think, rightfully so, in verticals. We think of agri-food tech, right? The entire food chain from top to bottom. We think digital health, gaming, computers, the same thing. It's always verticals. What makes AI going so impactful and why it's going to have a large presence at the show is artificial intelligence, like sustainability or inclusive tech design and others, are these trends in technology that are horizontal. They cut across every vertical. And so let's stay in food tech, right? This is what we're here to talk about. And you're going to see those advancements run the whole range from, again, that farm to table. So with John Deere, that precision agriculture is going to talk a lot about how you can use AI computer vision to help automate the production process around food. You'll also see advancements like food scanners being a major play here, where AI can recognize and analyze food to basically tailor nutrition reports. So that way you can better measure calories. And then even by taking a photo of your food, you can figure out if you're someone with maybe a chronic disease, how you can support that with the health information to better support those sort of managing those conditions. And then even AI-powered smart grills, right? That allowed sort of that automation to help just really cook meat in a much more efficient manner. And then it will also be in robotics, because I think we tend to think of AI sometimes in a vacuum outside of robotics, but it's a story of automation. So we'll see those countertop robots from home cooking appliance companies, as well as some of those restaurant and hospitality robots. So it really will mirror the show in a lot of ways, where AI is going to appear in so many different facets.
Definitely. And you also mentioned, I like what you mentioned about, how AI there's going to be inventions there that they scan food. It can tell you nutritional content, health. That's definitely another big topic that people have been, focusing on in the food industry, wellness, right? And so over on the tech side at CES, I know you guys are we're going to be seeing a lot of health focused inventions, systems, innovations. Can you tell us about how that's going to play a big role as well in the show?
Of course. And so when you think about digital health at CES, I really want you all to remember 3 key words: personalized, accessible, and intelligent. That's going to define a lot of the innovation at the show floor for digital health. Personalized, we're talking about devices that no longer just treat one condition for a patient, but instead look at the holistic profile of the patient. When you think about something like your wearables, for example, like your smartwatch, it used to just be steps trackers. Now it has mindfulness apps on board. It has blood oxygen monitoring. And you'll see that even with solutions like there's an AI wearable bracelet that can track hot flash technology, or hot flashes during menopause, and connects to a connected cooling pad to help try to minimize disruption during sleep. So you're taking women's health and combining it with sleep technology. So that's the personalization side. Accessible is trying to focus to make sure no one's left behind with these technologies. So that's the inclusive tech portion. So Garmin, with their wearable Venue 3, they're adding a wheelchair mode. We take, I think, oftentimes for granted that most fitness trackers and smartwatches for health wearables have step counters on board. Well, this will have a wheelchair mode on their Garmin smartwatch to make sure that folks who are in a wheelchair can track their health stats. Then finally, an AI is going to be a major driver in healthcare. It will be a primary beneficiary here, where you'll see solutions like electronic healthcare record analysis tools that can identify the risk of infection after surgery in an attempt to help save lives in a lot of ways. So when we think about it, it's going to be a lot in the wearable side from exhibitors like Abbott. You're going to have remote patient monitoring from Neurologics, but you're also going to see so many of these materials across the board, not just in the dedicated section of North Hall of the convention center, but also in the Eureka Park Startup Pavilion, where you're going to see a lot of those startups showcasing that health innovation.
Awesome. And finally, Brian, with this show, as you guys produce, again, these shows every year, what are the association's hopes for CES 2024 for this year? What kind of impact do you guys hope to make across all industries?
Of course. Well, I think let's go with the numbers too, what we're shaping up at. So right now, we're tracking for about 4,000 exhibiting companies on the show floor. 1,200 of them are going to be startups, right? So part of this is telling the story in a lot of ways and the impact of this is where innovation from all forms, we go back to those keynotes I mentioned, right? We have beauty tech, industrials, markets, retail, consumer electronics, like proper. It really is about bringing all of this together onto one big tent and platform. And that's where business gets done. The average executive has about 29 meetings in the 4 days of the show between January 9th and through the 12th. So that's one by the numbers and kind of the impact. The other is we're tracking right now, and we'll know officially because we independently audit our attendance numbers after the show, but we're looking at about 130,000 attendees this year. So really shaping up to be, again, this place where people will be seeing innovation come to life at various forms, whether it's in the spark in startup stage, or it's in a concept, or it's in a product that's going to be on the shelves immediately today. We're more than just the Consumer Electronics Showcase. We really just use CES for that reason, because we're an enterprise and consumer show, an industrial show, and a human securities for all sort of based platform. So I think our impact is really about bringing people together and then being able to the rest of the year talk about what we saw and how it's going to impact the rest of the year, the next decade, and beyond.
All right, Brian Comiskey, Director of Thematic Programs for the Consumer Technology Association. You can also check out more of his insights on our written article previewing CES 2024. You can check that out on our website, foodinstitute.com. Brian, thanks again for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Susan, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you all. So looking forward to seeing you at CES and hopefully see some of you too.
Let's cover some events coming up in the food and beverage industry. On January 11th, the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases the latest on the Consumer Price Index, and they do the same for the Producer Price Index on January 12th. And please don't forget to set the alarm on your smartphones for our special coverage on CES 2024 FI at CES, bringing the technology to your table. We'll be at the show giving you the latest and greatest innovations in food tech, from restaurant robotics to AI-backed systems, smart grills. Don't miss out on all of our coverage. That will happen on our social media platforms. Stay on our YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages for live, real-time updates on what we're seeing, as well as video postings of all the coolest things we're seeing. There will be no newscast next week because of the special coverage, but we will be back next week for sure. And as always, you can check out all the great content that we've done by clicking on this playlist. Till next time, I'm Susan Choi. Take care and have a great weekend.